So this is teaching for women. So I didn't really go into the scripture about why we didn't, I didn't really give a lot of scripture in the video that you commented on about how we are not to feast. So I'll just go over them with you here. Um, and from my knowledge, now I never really got into Torah. I never veered to the rites. Okay. When I woke up, I threw out all my Christmas crap. And I was thinking of looking at the feast, but I learned later that you can't do them before I even like really started digging into the feast. Because I remember kind of reading a little bit. I didn't really know where to find it and them, and then I did find some, and it was so confusing to me. Like I was like, I don't even know how to. Yeah, and then I learned before I even tried to do any of the feasts or really look into it that we can't do the feast. I read the scripture and it made perfect sense to me. So I never went to the right. Okay. Um, so I'm going to go over some of the scriptures because I didn't do that in my last video. Okay. So, um, Deuteronomy chapter 12, it tells you that you cannot do right in your own eyes. Do not do what's right in your own eyes this day. Right? Um, Verse 8, you shall not do after all the things that we do here this day, every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. Okay, so he's making a distinction. They're going to go into the land of their inheritance, and he's telling them, you shall not do after the things that we do here this day. Every man whosoever is right in his own eyes, but you are not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance which the Lord our God giveth you. They haven't received their inheritance. They're about to receive their inheritance, but they haven't received it yet. They're not to do right in their own eyes here this day. But when you go over Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord our God giveth you to inherit, and when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about you. So they cleansed the land when they went over in the land, they cleansed the land. And when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about, so that you dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall you bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and the heave offerings of your hand, and all your choice vows which you vow unto the Lord, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, and your sons and your daughters and your manservants and your maidservants. I'm going to skip down to verse 13. Take heed to yourself that you take heed to yourself that you offer not thy burnt offerings in every place that thou seest. So he's very specific in his instructions. They couldn't just offer their burnt offerings any place that they chose. Okay? But in the place which the Lord shall choose in one of thy tribes, there thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, and there thou shalt do all that I command thee. So you can't do what's right in your own eyes. Here this day, when you go into the land of your inheritance, when you're in peace and safety after they've cleansed the land, then you can take your burnt offerings and where he commands you, where he chooses to place his name. Very explicit instructions. So I'm going to skip down to verse 18. But thou must eat them before the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, thou and thy sons and thy daughters and thy manservants. So he tells you again 2 times in the same chapter. Okay, so Deuteronomy chapter 16, again, he tells you over and over that you can only do the feast where he chooses to place his name. and he's very specific at the appointed times when to do them. So Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 5, thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, but at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in. There thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou comest forth out of Egypt. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, and thou shalt turn in the morning and go unto thy tents. Okay, so where is it? Okay, and thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto Jehovah thy God, with the tribute of a freewill offering of thy hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according to the Lord thy God has blessed thee. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, and thou and thy sons and thy daughters and manservants and maidservants, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God has chosen to place his name there. Again, where he chooses to place his name there. Jehovah placed his name in Jerusalem, not America, Jerusalem. That is where he placed his name. That was the land of inheritance that they went over to. Again, just read the rest of Deuteronomy chapter 16. It will go over it again and again with the feast. You can only do them where he places his name, where he chose to do them. He wrote his name in Jerusalem. Otherwise, you're doing right in your own eyes. Okay, so there is two houses. There's the house of Judah and Benjamin, and then there's the 10 other tribes, okay, that made up Israel. The northern kingdom, the 10 other tribes. The northern kingdom were written a bill of divorce, and then they were scattered because they kept doing pagan idolatry. They were scattered to the four corners of the world, not in the land of their inheritance. No, they were scattered because they kept doing pagan idolatry. Judah and Benjamin, they saw their sister get divorced and scattered for idolatry, and then they went and did the same thing. Go read Ezekiel chapter 4. Ezekiel laid on his right side for Judah and Benjamin, the southern kingdom, for 40 days because they were placed in captivity for 40 years because they did the same sin they saw their sister nation do that got divorced and scattered. Their punishment was for 40 years, okay? And then he laid on his left side for the house of Israel, the 10 other tribes that were written a bill of divorce, right? For 390 days. The days represent years. So they were in their captivity for 390 years. Leviticus chapter 26. If they didn't return, if they were not ashamed and didn't return after their punishment, after their captivity, their punishment became sevenfold. Part of Judah returned after that their captivity. And that's who's over there now in Jerusalem. But the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, they weren't ashamed. They didn't return. So their punishment became sevenfold. And blindness in part, and they were blind in part until the fullness of the Gentiles. The Gentiles devoured the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom. And that's why the Pharisees were like, when Yeshua told them where he was going to go where they could not go, they murmured amongst themselves and asked themselves, is he going to go into the dispersed? Because they knew that the northern kingdom was dispersed within the Gentiles, scattered and divorced. And if you do the math, sevenfold punishment brought you to about 2008. And that's when people started like coming out of the lawless Christian church and then going to the Torah movement because they saw that they were lawless in the Christian church, that they couldn't do those abominations, Christmas and Easter. And then they started to covet after Jehovah's feasts because they wanted to replace their pagan traditions with something. So they started coveting the feast days. They wanted to replace them. But instead of following the full instruction of Jehovah, Deuteronomy 12 and 16, they were doing right in their own eyes. In Jubilees chapter 6, he took the calendar away. It was a punishment because our punishment was sevenfold, and now we're in a polluted land, not in our inheritance, the house of Israel, not in our inheritance. So, and you took the calendar away. So you're really doing right in your own eyes. It's not a challenge to try to figure out the calendar. He will restore the calendar and the pure language and all of that. Jehovah will. We won't because it's our punishment. It is our punishment. So in Jubilees, chapter 6, just read the whole chapter, but I'm going to skip. It talks about the feast and the Passover. Command you the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this counting, 364 days, and these will constitute a complete year, and they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. But if they neglect and do not observe them according to his commandments, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order, and they will neglect their established rules. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and the seasons and the Sabbaths, and they will wrongfully determine all the order of the years. For I know, and from now on will I declare it to you, and it is not of my own devising, for the book lies written in the presence of me, and on the heavenly tables the divisions of days and the division of days is ordained, or they forget the feast of the covenants and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles, December 25th, Jeremiah 10, winter solstice, Easter, the pagan traditions and holidays, right? I lost my place here. After their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon and how it disturbs the seasons and cometh from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason the year will come upon them when they disturb, misinterpret the order, and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. They will make an abominable day the day of the of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day, and they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy, for they will go wrong as to the months and the Sabbaths and the feasts and the jubilees. For this reason I command and testify to you, that you may testify to them. For after your death your children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and the seasons and the Sabbaths and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood and all kinds of flesh. Which what happens. We don't have the calendar. Now, if you go to Lamentations, this is Lamentations chapter 2. You can read the whole chapter, but I'm just going to start. He has in verse 3, he has cut off in his fierce anger all the horn of Israel. He has drawn back his right hand from before the enemy. And he burned against Jacob like a flaming fire, which devoureth round about. He has bent his bow like an enemy. He stood with his right hand as an adversary, and slew all that were pleasant to the eye, and in the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion. He poured out his fury like fire. The Lord was an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He has swallowed up all her palaces. He has destroyed his strongholds. He has increased in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentations. And he has violently taken away his tabernacle. Jehovah took away, violently taken away his tabernacle as if it were of a garden. He has destroyed his palaces of assembly. The Lord has caused the solemn feasts and Sabbaths to be forgotten in Zion. Jehovah caused that. He has despised in the indignation of his anger the king and the priest. And the Lord has cast off his altar. He has abhorred his sanctuary. He has given up into the hand of the enemy the walls of her palaces. They have made a noise in the house of the Lord as in the days of the solemn feast. Jehovah took away the solemn feast violently. He took it away from them. They went after the Gentiles' feast, so he changed the calendar. He took the calendar away, so they would go wrong on the days of the feast. And I think in Leviticus, I always forget which feast it is, but I'm just gonna go there. So it's the Day of Atonement in Leviticus 23. If you don't do the Day of Atonement at the appointed time to the full instruction of Jehovah, your soul will be cut off. So this is verse 29. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among the people. And whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. So if you do it the wrong day, because you don't have the calendar, you're being presumptuous and thinking that you have restored it when Jehovah was the one who took it away as a punishment because you're in Babylon, Ephraim, not in your inheritance, not where he wrote his name. You're doing right in your own eyes. You're doing right in your own eyes. If you read the book of Tobit, I think it's the second chapter. Tobit did the feast outside the land. He polluted the feast. Jehovah sent a bird, and a bird crapped in his eyes and blinded him. And if you read the whole book of Tobit later, he remembers why he was blinded and he repents for it because he realizes he couldn't do them outside the land. Chapter 2. And now, O you priests, this commandment is for you, if you will not hear and if you will not lay it to hearts, to give glory unto my name, saith Jehovah of hosts. I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yes, I have cursed them already because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, just like Tobit, dung on his face, the bird crapped in his eyes, dung all over his face, blinding him. Even the dung of your solemn feast, and one shall take you away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me and was afraid before my name. Your feast days are dung on your face. They blind you. Rebellion is as witchcraft. It's better to obey God than to obey man, right? He's he gives you explicit instructions. We are in mourning, lamentations, and woe. This we're to enter into the work of the watchman. That's Ezekiel 2, 3, and 33. You have to know what season you're in. It's right before the end of the world. Right before the sixth seal is going to pop off. Do you honestly think that he wants you to be feasting instead of like watching? You're putting off the weightier matters of the law. The Torah, this is the era of the Torah movement. They become presumptuous, which is the sin of the servants, is presumptuousness. And they think that they can restore the calendar when Jehovah was the one who took it away as a punishment. Instead of accepting the punishment, they do right in their own eyes. And then they also try to push Paleo Hebrew on people. Zechariah 3 tells you that Jehovah is the only one that's going to restore the pure language. So their focus is on figuring out a calendar, putting tassels on all their clothes, which the Messiah finished the sacrificial law. Daniel 9, verse 27. He confirmed the covenants that he was prophesied to give us in Deuteronomy 18 and Acts 3, the times of refreshing, in Isaiah 28, verse 12, that they would not hear. Both houses stumble at Yeshua. Neither one heard the refreshing in Ephraim, the land of the drunkards, land of pride, America. And they stumble at Yeshua. They either go too far to the right or too far to the left, but narrow is the way, if you will find it. Zephaniah 3. Woe to her that is filthy and polluted, to the pressing city. She obeyed not the voice. She received not correction. She trusted not in Jehovah. She drew not near to her God. Her princes within her are roaring lions. Her judges are evening wolves. Evening wolves. The Torah movement, they do evening Friday to evening Saturday Sabbath. They're children of the night, children of darkness. 1 Thessalonians 5, who sleep in the night. They're the dumb dogs that cannot bark, lying down to slumber, because they put off the weightier matters of the law, which was mercy and judgment. They stumble at Yeshua. They're the unjust stewards that have not written their check for half. They beat people over the head with the sacrificial law, Paleo Hebrew, learning a calendar that Jehovah took away, all distractions while putting off the weightier matters of the law. 23:23. They don't do righteous judgments. They don't love their neighbor as themselves. Leviticus 19:15 through 18, by rebuking their neighbor so they don't suffer sin upon them. They don't go to the Christian churches and rebuke them for their lawlessness. They don't go and rebuke them. They're not trying to go find the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Instead, they're filling their bellies, feasting, pushing Paleo Hebrew, trying to restore the calendar, putting tassels on their clothes, beating people over the head, telling them they have to pay in full. When Yeshua in Daniel 9:27, he ceased sacrifice midweek. He ended the sacrificial law, the law that was added to the Holy Covenants. If you read Deuteronomy chapter 4 through it's either 9 or 10. You can see the story in Exodus 17 when Jehovah brought him out of Egypt, out of bondage. He spoke to them at the rock of Horeb where Moses smote the rock and the life-giving water was given. Deuteronomy 5, Deuteronomy 4. He only gave the 10 commandments. Do not add, do not take away. The 10 commandments, verse 22 of Deuteronomy chapter 5. He added no more. He gave it with his voice. They feared God and they didn't want to hear his voice anymore that they die not. So they asked Moses to be their mediator, to go hear what the Lord would say, and they would do it. They put borders around Mount Sinai, which if you go look at the Ron Wyatt's account, Horeb and Mount Sinai are 6 miles apart. Moses went up on the mountain. He was up there for 40 days and 40 nights, Exodus 31. They grew in patience. They made a calf while he was up on the mountain, transgressing his covenants. They just agreed to the verbal contract. Moses came down with the 2 tables of stone with the 10 commandments Jehovah wrote with his own finger, saw their transgression, threw the 2 tables of stone on the ground, shattering them, signifying they broke the covenants. And then he returned and received 2 new tables of stone with the 10 commandments, plus the added 600 and some sacrificial laws that he wrote in a book with his hand in Deuteronomy 31:24 as a witness against the people from their transgression until it would be finished. That means it was there for a period of time and then it would be finished. Yeshua, before he bowed his head and gave up the ghost, he says, "It is finished." He finished the handwritten ordinances, the law of sin and death, the law that you shouldn't live by. If you go read Ezekiel 20, it tells you again, he gave them commandments. They transgressed, and then he gave them a law they shouldn't live by, the sacrificial law. And then he polluted their gifts and their burnt offerings. He polluted their gifts because they went after the ways of the heathen round about them. They learned the ways of the heathen round about them. Pagan idolatry. So both houses stumble at Yeshua. The Christians being lawless, they couldn't hear the times of refreshing of the holy covenants at Horeb, and Deuteronomy 18, that Yeshua would come. The people were to hearken unto him according to what was desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly. And if you read Deuteronomy chapter 5, Jehovah says, "Oh, if they would have a heart in them always to keep my commandments always, so that their days would be prolonged." Yeshua says, "I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and the knowledge of God over burnt offerings." The mercy of God is the covenants, the covenant of peace, the 10 commandments. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9 and 10. Even in Deuteronomy chapter 5, when he's giving the 10 commandments, he tells them, if you break my commandments, you hate me, but if you keep them, you love me, and he'll have mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments. Luke 172, he performed the mercy and ended. He performed the mercy and remembered the covenants he was prophesied to give us. Why would he have to remember the covenants if they already had it? If they didn't need to change anything? If we're still under sacrificial law, the feast and the burnt offerings and the sacrifice, that all goes together. That all goes together. It's not separate. He finished the handwriting of ordinances that was a witness against them and nailed them to the stake, Colossians 2:14. So Zephaniah chapter 3. Evening wolves. They do an evening Babylonian. Friday dusk to Saturday dusk Sabbath. They learned when they were in captivity by the Chaldeans. This is Daniel chapter 1. when they were in captivity. Children, okay, so the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. That's when they got the evening to evening Babylonian dusk to dusk Sabbath. They learned when they were in captivity. So Zephaniah 3. So her princes within her are roaring lions, her judges are evening wolves. They gnaw not the bones till the morrow. Her prophets are light and treacherous persons. Her priests have polluted the sanctuary. They have done violence in the law. The just Jehovah is in the midst of thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth to shame. I have cut off the nations, their towers are desolate. I made their streets waste, that none passes by. Their cities are destroyed, so that there is no man, that there is none inhabitants. I said, surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive instruction, so their dwelling should not be cut off, howsoever I punish them. But they rose early and corrupted all their doings. Therefore wait you upon me, saith Jehovah, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. For then will I return to the people of pure language, that they may all call upon the name of Jehovah to serve him with one consent. These evening wolves, pushing Paleo Hebrew, being presumptuous to think that they can restore the pure language, presumptuous in thinking that they figured out the calendar. There is 7 different calendars. How do you know which one's right? As in your question, how do I know? He took it away. Why do you think you're going to undo what Jehovah did as a punishment to his people? Right? He says he will restore the language. So why? And Ezekiel, it's either 3, I can't remember. It's in Ezekiel, either 2, 3, or 33. He says that he didn't, it's in Ezekiel 3, I think. He didn't send them to a people with a strange language. He didn't send his watchmen to do righteous judgments who are not putting off the weightier matters of the law, mercy and judgments, loving their neighbor as themselves. The porter he puts in the gates. He didn't send them to a people of a strange language. We're in Babylon, America. Even other nations, most of them can speak English and know English. So why are you beating people over the head with Paleo Hebrew? Why are they doing that? The Bible tells you who people are, what they're going to be doing, and why. So you can figure this out. It's in prophecies. Daughters of Zion are hiding, walking and mincing with stretched forth necks, right? Isaiah 3. It's either Isaiah 3 or Isaiah 13. I think it's Isaiah 3. In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, the land of Ephraim, the land of the drunkards, the land of pride. And thou shalt no more be hiding because of my holy mountain. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of Jehovah. And Daniel, he was wise. In Daniel 10, he fasted for 3 weeks during the Passover, I believe, because he was outside the land. Even Paul, so that he had to go back to Jerusalem to do the feast. Acts 18, okay? So let's see here. And he continued there a year and 6 months, teaching the word of God among them. And when Gallio was the deputy of, and forgive me, I'm going to butcher these names, at Chiaia, the Jews made instruction with one accord against Paul and brought him to the judgment seat, saying, This fellow persuadeth men to worship God contrary to the law, because quickly write your check for half. Keep the covenants of promise, the 10 Commandments, and eat clean. Don't go to the letter of the law. 1 Corinthians 7. Circumcision or uncircumcision is nothing but keeping the commandments of God. 1 Corinthians 14:37. All Paul had written unto you before were the commandments of God, not the sacrificial law. Right? And when Paul was now about to open his mouth, Gallio said unto the Jews, If it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, O you Jews, reason would that I should bear with you. But if it be a question of words and names and of your law, look you to it, for I will be no judge of such matters. And he drave them from the judgment seat. Then all the Greeks took Sosthenes, Sosthenes, the chief ruler of the synagogue, and beat him before the judgment seat. And Gallio cared for none of those things. And Paul after this tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria. And with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in I'm butchering this, Conchria, for he had a vow, and he came to Ephesus and left them there. But he himself entered into the synagogues and reasoned with the Jews. When they desired him to tarry longer time with them, he consented not. They wanted him to tarry longer with him, or with them, right? He consented not, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem, where Jehovah placed his name. But I will return again unto you if God will, if God wills it. And he sailed from Ephesus. They were receiving the refreshing of the covenants. They wanted Paul to tarry with them longer, but he insisted, no, I have to go back to do the feast, to keep this feast. So if it was lawful for Paul to do the feast outside the land, why would he not tarry longer with them and do it there? Because he knew he couldn't do it outside the land. He followed the full instruction of Jehovah. This is where the Torah movement goes wrong. And so, because they become haughty, prideful, presumptuous, They wake up, they're like, oh, the Christians are lawless. Judah must have it right. Then they stumble at Yeshua all over again because they don't wait on the Lord to show them these things. They envy Judah while Judah vexes Ephraim. They envy Judah. They think, oh, Judah has it right. Oh, I'll replace the pagan feast days with God's feast and then pollute God's feast, not doing them on the correct day because they go wrong by the calendar, because they learned the ways of the heathen round about them. We are in Babylon, a polluted land on a polluted calendar. That is our punishment. Instead of taking the punishment and learning to do well, James 2, the weightier matters of the law, to love their neighbor as themselves instead of stoning each other to death by the sacrificial law, loving their neighbor by rebuking the sin, taking up their staff of authority, entering the work of the watchman. What he said to the porter, he said to all, watch. They fill their bellies. They covet after the feast. They're still respecters of persons. They don't go into the dispersed and go like the Pharisees. They don't go to the Christian church and tell them that they're in error, that they're lawless. They can't be doing these pagan holidays. No, they don't do that. They don't go and find their brothers and sisters. They're not doing the weightier matters of the law. Isaiah 22. And in that day did the Lord God of hosts call to weeping and to mourning and to baldness and to girding with sackcloth. And behold, joy and gladness, slaying oxen and killing sheep, eating flesh and drinking wine. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. That is the Torah movement today. The Beatitudes, blessed are they who mourn. They're not mourning for Zion. That's not who the Beatitudes are written to. They're not mourning. Isaiah 1. I haven't read that one yet. Verse 11, to what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me, saith Jehovah? I am full of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks or of lambs or of he-goats. When you come to appear before me, who has required this at your hand to tread my courts? Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is abomination unto me. The new moons, the Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with. It is iniquity, even the solemn meeting. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yes, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Because you will not do righteous judgment, you will not enter into the work of the watchman. If the watchman doesn't warn the people of their iniquity, and those people die in their iniquity, Jehovah requires their blood at your hand. And when he said to the porter, he said to all, watch. And if you're not watching, he comes on to you like a thief in the night. The feasters, the Torah movement, are not watching. They're feasting. They're eating and drinking with joy and gladness, not mourning. So Luke 16, the unjust steward. There was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he had wasted his goods. And he called him and said unto him, how is it that I hear this of thee? give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest do no longer steward. The steward said within himself, what shall I do? For my Lord taketh away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig to beg, I am ashamed. I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So he called every one of his Lord's debtors unto him and said unto the first, how much owest thou unto the Lord? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, take thy bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then said he to another, and how much thou owest? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said unto him, take thy bill and write 80. And the Lord commanded the unjust steward, because he had done wisely, for the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. He said, write your check for half. Write her your check for half. Wiser than the children of light. You want to be the wiser children of the light, okay? That writes her check for half. Doesn't go to the letter of the law, the sacrificial law. Doesn't covet after his feast days. Doing right in your own eyes, but keeping the 10 Commandments, loving your neighbor as yourself, the royal law in James 2, Leviticus 19, 15 through 18. Ezekiel 3, watching. Because the ones that are watching, they know perfectly well. This is the 1 Thessalonians 5 group. But of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. He doesn't need to write unto them. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. They know because they're watching. They haven't put off the weightier matters of the law. They've taken the correction. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them, and travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. You are all the children of the light, the day dawning in their hearts, the more sure way of prophecy. You are all the children of the light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as others do, but let us watch and be sober, not prideful, humble and contrite hearts. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night, the evening wolves. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet of hope of salvation. God has not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by the Lord Yeshua Messiah, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we should live together with him. Wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as also you do. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you, and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you. Quench not the spirit, despise not prophesying. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil. And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, Jehovah, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of the Lord Yeshua Messiah. So I hope that makes sense. I really do. And I'm going to finish this video up. I know it's kind of long, but Isaiah 8. Oh, wrong one. Isaiah 8. So Yeshua the stumbling block, and he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, and for a rock of offense to both the house of Israel, for a gin and for a snare for the inhabitants of Jerusalem, for both houses. Okay, so Matthew 7 stone a stumbling for Israel. This is Matthew 7, verse 21. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, haven't we not prophesied in thy name? Because they're calling on the name Baal, Jesus, and in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wondrous works. Beelzebub, king of the devils, Jesus, that sits in their temple. 2 Thessalonians 2, the man of perdition, that does lying signs and wonders that would deceive even the elect if it were possible, because they're lawless. And then Luke 13. Verse 24, strive to enter in at the strait gates. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. When once the master of the house is risen up and has shut to the door, and you begin to stand without and to knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open unto us. And he shall answer and say unto you, I know you not whence you are. Then shall you begin to say, we have eaten and drunk in thy presence, doing the feast, and thou hast taught in our streets. But he will say, I tell you, I know you not whence you are. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. Rebukes both houses. Matthew 7, house of Israel. Luke 13, rebukes the Torah movements who are eating and drinking, the lying down to slumber, putting the weightier matters of the law off. Please go read these scriptures. And if you still are not sure, come to our teaching our teachings on Zoom. You can go to the website. We have several throughout the day. They have the morning milk at 9 a.m. Eastern time, Andrew's space in the evening at 9 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, and then Sabbath is at 9 a.m. Eastern time. It runs all day long. Come and ask questions. We have brothers and sisters that can show you even more than what I've shown you. This is what I didn't even need all of this to see that we couldn't do the feast. And over time, I learned more, just more confirmation we cannot do them over time. I only had to read Deuteronomy 12 and Deuteronomy 16 to see that we couldn't do the feast in a polluted land, not where he placed his name. That's all it took really for me. Before I even knew all of this stuff, it was Deuteronomy 12, Deuteronomy chapter 16, and was it Lamentations chapter 2, verse 6. That's all I really had to read to understand that we can't do the feast. And then over time, it was just more confirmation. The more I learned about the two houses, there was more confirmation to me that we aren't to do them at all.